Today, I want to talk a little bit about drugs and alcohol. And as a Christian, I certainly don't want to point fingers at people and say, oh, you drink too much, you do too many drugs, because I've done a lot. I used to drink a lot. And even though I was a Christian, I drank for many years. And I always justified it by saying, well, you know what, I don't let it interfere with my work, which I didn't, even though I had a hangover every day. I think I had a hangover every day for 40 years. That's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, that was me. But I kept a check on it. I kept a lid on it for sure. And drugs too. I wasn't a cocaine doer or anything like that, but I smoked weed. I admit that. But there comes a time in your life and in a Christian's life when you have to make a decision. And for me, I prayed about it, and I prayed over the years, I don't want the alcohol anymore, but it wasn't a fervent prayer. And when it's not a fervent prayer, well, God doesn't answer prayers that are not fervent. You have to really want something for him to help you. And a few years ago, this is 2.5 years ago now, I was working out of town, living in a hotel, and it was like the perfect setting to dry out. And I never forget it. I did pray a fervent prayer. See, I started to tell myself in my mind, this can't be good for me. Like, I was drinking a lot of whiskey. I'd go home at night, even though I'd work a big long day, I'd come home, I'd still drink my 20 ounces every day. I'd drink a 60-ounce bottle of whiskey every 3 days, like clockwork at the end. I was buying it by the case. And I'm thinking to myself, this can't be good. Plus, it was costing me a whole lot of money, but I didn't care about that. I always justified it. But something changed. And so I prayed, and I did pray. But I also started telling myself in my mind, this can't be good. I'm not young anymore. I'm in my 50s. And at that time, I was 55. And I'm thinking to myself, it's going to do neurological damage. It's going to do liver damage. It's going to cause me, health challenges down the road. So it was an ideal situation. And then I prayed to God, a fervent prayer that, Lord, take the desire for this away from me. And anyway, as I said, I was out of town. I was working, and we're scheduled to work for 2 weeks, and I had to stay in a hotel for 2 weeks. So every night I'd come back, and I remember I went up on a Sunday night, and I grabbed my hotel room, and I remember having a couple drinks, and then in the morning, of course, went to work, and I had my little hangover, and then but the next night I went back to my hotel, and I only had 2 drinks, and I didn't think nothing of it, and the next morning I kind of had my little hangover again. And then at the third night I was there, I didn't have a drink. I went to pour a drink, and I just didn't want one. Instead, I had a bottle of water and an apple. Because at the front desk of the hotel, they had a bowl full of apples. I said, can I have one? They said, sure, that's what they're for. I said, okay. So I took a green apple and a bottle of water up to my room, and I had an apple. And I drank the water, and I brushed my teeth and went to bed. No drinks. Didn't want one. It was all of a sudden, it was just gone. But I didn't trust that. I thought, oh, well, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, yeah, but tomorrow I'll want a drink. And I remember I came back and went up to my room, same thing, the apple and the water, and didn't want a drink. And ever since then, I have not wanted to drink. I don't care about it. I have no desire for alcohol. So to me, it was like a miracle, because I was the guy that would, if it was getting late and I didn't have any booze, I'd have to find a liquor store to get in there and grab some booze before they closed. Otherwise, it just never happened. I just never let it happen. I made sure that I always had booze, always. Pot was the same. I liked it, but again, I knew that it can't be good for me. It's getting in my lungs. I used to smoke cigarettes many, many years ago, and I threw that habit away too. But the biblical perspective of this is are these things okay? And well, remember the story of Jesus in Cana, where he was at the wedding feast. And they ran out of wine. And his mother said to him, she goes, they're out of wine. And he says, what do I have to do with thee? And she didn't even listen to him. A good mom, she didn't even, it's like she never even heard him. She said to the servants, okay, just do whatever he says. So Jesus probably rolled his eyes and went, okay, So he went over there and he asked them to fill up the water jars with water. And then he had the master of the feast come over and take the wine, and the master goes and he said, usually at a wedding, the best wine is served first, and then after everyone's been drinking a while, they serve the lesser wine. But he said, you have saved the best for last. So right there, I thought, well, drinking, they did it back in the day, and Jesus turned the water into wine, so it can't be so bad, right? But if you read the Bible and you look at any time that there's a party going on and there's a lot of drinking and partying, something bad happens, okay? Herod, that's an example. Herod's, they're having a big feast, and it's been going on for many days, and of course he's all merry with wine, that says the Bible, and he was drunk. And it's a birthday party, of course, that's another thing you got to watch. And his wife's daughter, which was actually Philip's wife, but Herodias married him. And her daughter was very beautiful and a very skilled dancer, and she put on a dance like no other. And of course he's all drunk, and he said, he was so pleased with it, he said, whatever you want, up to half of my kingdom I'll give you. Well, she was a youngster. She didn't know what to ask for. She went to her mother and said, what should I ask for? And she goes, bring me the head of John the Baptist on a plate or in a charger. I think the Bible says a charger, in a box. So Herod didn't want to do that. He feared John the Baptist, even though he put him in jail or in prison. He didn't want to do it, but he didn't want to lose face in front of his guests. So guess what he did? He sent the soldiers to the prison. They got John the Baptist, and they beheaded him and brought the head to the mother, or to the daughter, and the daughter gave it to her mother, because that's what she didn't like John the Baptist. In fact, she hated him because he spoke out against her relationship with Herod. He thinks that she probably liked the idea of being married to a powerful man, I guess. Another time, it's in the book of Daniel, when the son of Nebuchadnezzar is having a big party, same thing, and they're all drunk and they've been partying and doing all kinds of bad things, and that's when the hand appears. Now, I don't know if some of you don't even know the story maybe, but there's a hand, just a hand. It appears after he had blasphemed and after he had used all these things that were taken from Jerusalem, all these cups and all these things were used to do very solemn ceremonies, and they were drinking wine out of it, and this hand appeared. And you've heard the saying, the writing's on the wall for you. Well, the writing was on the wall. Many, many tekel parsin. And we'll get into that at another time, but the point is, the drinking and the partying led to some really bad things for the king, because Babylon fell that night. Okay? So the Bible doesn't out and out say you shouldn't drink, and I'm not going to say you can't drink. There's nothing wrong with having a few drinks, if you can do that, but some folks can't. They take one drink, or they say one drink's not enough, too many, and 1,000 aren't enough, and I've heard people say that. And I was one of those people. But with the power of God and the Spirit, I was able to escape from that. So does the Bible say it's okay to drink? Yeah, I guess it doesn't really say you should or shouldn't. Or should you do drugs? It doesn't really say you should or shouldn't. But my recommendation is that if you're going to do those things, you should always, use moderation. Moderation is the key. But the answer to those questions are in the Bible. You just look at the situations that happen in some of these stories, and then you go, well, maybe it's not such a good idea to get all hammered out of shape, And back in the day, when I was a kid, we used to drink and drive all the time. And then, because my dad did it, because he grew up on a farm, and he was born in 1919, and they used to ride horses. And if they went out to a dance or something, well, they took the horse in the wintertime, they'd take a horse from the sleigh. Well, you could have as much drinks as you want, and you get in the sleigh, and the horses knew how to get home, and you didn't have to worry about it. But then when people started driving cars, they took that drinking and traveling together, and it became a real problem on our roads. So from my own biblical perspective, use moderation whatever you do, and really think about it. And if you can live without alcohol or live without drugs, don't do them. Have a nice day.